right, looking live in Vegas, baby. The Democratic candidates will pitch their plans just a few days ahead of the Nevada caucuses, which wrap up on Saturday. What's interesting here, for Republicans say Democrats are just wasting their time. They hope to succeed on issues like health care, which galvanized their takeover of the House in the midterms. They think it could repeat here. Beverly Hallberg joins us, the Independent Women's Forum, and Jason Nichols, the Democratic strategist. Beverly, the one thing you hear is that health care worked for us. It wasn't a wedge issue. It became the issue. And so this way we don't have to spend a lot of time talking about the jobs gains and everything else going on in the Trump economy. They're noteworthy. They're hard to argue against. So we're going to focus on this stuff and maybe do better. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I think healthcare is becoming that economic issue because what voters really care about is for their costs to go down in healthcare. I thought it was very fascinating this week when Bernie Sanders went around touting his Medicare for All plan, that even the Culinary Union said they weren't going to endorse him, and even said, we like our healthcare and we don't want you to take it away. So I do expect on the debate stage tonight, in addition to the billionaire Bloomberg bashing that is going to be in abundance, for them to talk about some of the so-called moderates, to talk about their alternative to Medicare for All. This is what Amy Klobuchar is talking about. But regardless, Republicans are going to have to start talking about their plans for health care moving forward. You
know, another thing that's interesting, Jason, from the Democratic perspective, you're the expert here, that the idea that Michael Bloomberg has, not to really pick apart the economy, the numbers, the jobs gains in the markets, but to talk about, with that success and the money you can raise from these who've done very well, to get to these other goals. How is that going to go?
Well, I think Bloomberg is going to struggle tonight. He has a whole lot to answer for, as we know, with so many issues in terms of stop and frisk. And one of the things that he's got to argue on Super Tuesday, coming up, is to convince African-American voters that he's on their side. And it's going to be very difficult when you recently said that you supported redlining, which basically destroyed African-American wealth. And then you say, OK, well, I've got a plan for that. I think that it's going to ring hollow for him. But I think health care is a winning issue for Democrats across the board. We know that the president's handling of health care, he's at about 30 in the 30 percentile area in terms of approval for the way he's handled health care. We know he's supported federal lawsuits that basically will take away protections for pre-existing conditions.
Yeah, we'll have to see it. No, you raise a good point about how this could all sort out. But I wonder, Beverly, if there'll be a limit to how aggressively they go after Bloomberg. After all, this is the same guy who's promised to write a check to help the nominee, to help the party. They don't want to go too far, right?
He's bought a lot of influence over the years, not just with local communities across this country, but some of those individuals he's going to be debating. What is fascinating is his team has already come out and said that this isn't his forte. He's not great at public speaking, so they're already downplaying the expectations just a little bit. So hopefully they're hoping, even if he doesn't have a super strong showing, it won't hurt him too badly in the polls. But from a messaging standpoint, I do think he needs to be on that more moderate level, but he is going to be attacked tonight because he has been gaining in the polls.
And keep the expectations low on that, Jason. I built a career on it, so maybe he should try. But I'm curious, how do you think it ends up tonight? I mean, they're fighting with each other, screaming at each other. They just endured the Iowa craziness and all. How are Democrats feeling?
I think people are feeling optimistic. I think some people are a little worried that Bloomberg is going to buy this thing. But I think...
Well, if he did, would they support him in the end? Would they live with that if he were the nominee and support him?
I think that there will be an exodus of Bernie Sanders supporters, people who wanted to see Bernie Sanders, especially if he has the most delegates and the most votes at the end of the primary season.
But most doesn't mean a majority, right? You have to get that 1,991. If he doesn't have that, it's not a birthright, right?
It's not a birthright, but still, in elections, the people who have the most votes should win. And it seems like most of the party, I think, would support Bernie Sanders over somebody like Mike Bloomberg, who's really just pumping money into it.
It's still early in the going. That's a whole nother show, a whole